Hey gang, I've already gotten a lot of feedback from yesterday's message on the story of our origins. And by way of recapping, remember the story that we tell, the story about where we came from, we meaning people, human beings, has tremendous impact all across culture. In other words, ethics is actually tied very strongly to the story of our origins. And we're seeing that play out in a myriad number of ways in the West as the story of materialism becomes the primary story of our origins. Now remember, materialism is a philosophical system, a philosophical belief system that says that physical reality is the only thing that's part of the universe. Matter is the only thing that exists. There's nothing else that exists. And so I just wanted to throw out a couple of tidbits that made the cutting room floor that didn't make it into Sunday's message. I find it just amazingly ironic. I don't know if you know this, but in the 1800s, the sun never set on the British Empire. Britain had conquered large swaths of Africa, India, Southeast Asia. And so, the Brits were everywhere. And wealthy businessmen actually fought to keep missionaries out of India. They were determined, we cannot have Christian missionaries coming into India. And do you want to know why they fought this? Because they were convinced that if Christian missionaries came into India, they would pollute the masses with this radical Christian idea that all men are created equal, and they didn't want it ruining their business ventures and the way in which they were able to make product and ship it back to Britain cheaply. There's an interesting book called The Young Atheist's Handbook, and it's written by a former Muslim, of all things, and he writes this. He says, Death gives birth to gods. Without death, there would be fewer gods, if any. I mean, inventing a god is a coping strategy that has been adopted by people since prehistoric times, and it's understandable. So this is one of the things that atheists and materialists in particular will say to those of us in faith. They'll say, religion is just a crutch. You're just using it to cope with reality because reality is so stark. Actually, in my way of thinking, the tables really ought to be turned, because if materialism is reality, if matter, physical things like this pen are the only thing that's real about the universe, why is it that human beings grasp so strongly for meaning, purpose, and comfort when those things are absent from reality itself? I think the weight really falls on the materialist to explain why people drive and search for those things so strongly. At any rate, that's just some extra thoughts on this Monday related to Sunday's message. I hope you have a great week and stay dry.